The forthcoming dominance of hatchbacks was by no means assured, and so, in order to hedge their bets, Ford engineered both a saloon and a hatchback in the same basic body style in order to cater for each market. In the end, however, it came down to a matter of simple, rational economics. This is Ford of Europe after all, and with the hatchback no longer truly alien, by the summer of 1974 they viewed it as a safe bet and opted to build every Fiesta with 3 doors. But looking back on these little cars, nearly 50 years later, it's a great looking little thing. And in the context of this first generation of super minis, the Fiesta is really very mature. The Renault 5, by comparison, was harmed practically by its elderly, if still very competent, platform. And every Super Mini, with the exception possibly of the Peugeot 104, was tarred with the brush of austerity. Rubber mats were the norm rather than the low-spec exception, and by this point, a Mini, with its chrome grille and exposed seams, looked positively ancient. Now, this isn't to say that I believe any of the Fiesta's contemporaries were not good-looking cars. Instead, that the Ford brought a drastically modern tone to it all. As we mentioned at the beginning, Ford were all about making people feel good about their cars, and the Fiesta absolutely reflects that. Of the early Super Minis, it was the Renault 5 that most people thought was prettiest, and you cannot deny its incredible chicness. But that chicness gels with a very industrial quality. This is one that I feel is much harder to quantify, but the Mini and all the Super Minis up to this point undoubtedly had a very industrial quality about them. In fact, this is one of the failings, I feel, of the Austin Metro in the early 80s, that it wasn't well-rounded enough or wasn't pretty enough to compete effectively with the Ford Fiesta.